can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a pucked up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a pucked up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our minds.
Hello and welcome to Pucked Up Parents. It is episode 13, which is good timing because we just came out of Friday the 13th before Valentine's Day last Saturday. My name is Michael. I am your host. Along with me, as always, is a ever more patient person than I could ever be because I've been sick for 4 days. My lovely wife, Angela. Angela, number one, I'm sorry for being so sick the last few days. Number two, how are you?
All good here, all good. Welcome everyone to the Pucked Up Parents. We have been Pucked Up Parents for the last 12 years. We are novice first generation hockey parents in a non-traditional hockey town. Here to talk everything about what we've learned over the last 12 years of youth hockey.
I'd like to say we've seen it all, the ups and downs, ins and outs, but we're still learning. We're still learning stuff from hockey. So it's been a extremely fun ride, and we hope to share our knowledge or lack thereof with you and look for feedback for you to educate us as well. So with that said, Angela, we're coming out of a hockey weekend right now. It's a 3-day weekend because of the President's holiday. Usually we have a President's Day tournament, but we didn't this year. It's been a weird hockey season where we've had not hockey a lot this weekend. So any observations from the weekend? We just had one game.
Like you said, it was a pretty quiet weekend for us. I know a lot of people are coming back from tournaments over the weekend, especially with the long holiday weekend. We did not have that tournament and really quiet weekend. And otherwise, I was actually watching some of the Olympic hockey stuff this morning, watching the U.S. women's team kicking butt, and was really, had a good time watching that game. And I think they were beating Sweden at the time I walked away, something like 5-0. And it was pretty incredible. The thing that I took away from that is that 5 different players scored. Not the same player scored a goal in any of those 5 goals. So
Yeah.
I think that says a lot to the depth and the quality of the U.S. team. So I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, that's impressive. They're spreading the wealth in scoring, and we've seen this in the years Olympics. There's a bump in youth hockey interest following on the heels of successful hockey teams. And if this women's hockey team is in driver of it, I think the men are doing just as well. Youth hockey, especially when USA Hockey does the free hockey clinics, it's going to drive up the interest of kids wanting to play hockey.
For sure. And it's funny, I had a conversation with our high school student during that game, and he was talking about the women's professional league that's here in the US now. And he said, I know a lot of these women on this team play in that professional league. He goes, what did they do before the professional league existed? How did we create the US national team? And that's an interesting conversation. We didn't dive too deep in it, and I don't have a lot of background or knowledge on that. But I know for the most part, it was a lot of college women and some people who were just on the U.S. national team. And then shortly after that conversation, listening to the commentators, were talking about how that professional women's league has really extended the careers of a lot of these women who would normally have retired in their early 20s, mid 20s, and now are playing into their 30s because they have this opportunity in the professional league. So I think that's really amazing. And I think that's a great step in women's sports.
That is the PWHL league that's out there. That's the Professional Women's Hockey League. So look them up on Facebook, on social media. They are some phenomenal athletes out there, and again, they are driving the interest in this sport through the roof, which is incredible for hockey. And I'll go and say this: there's some breaking news as we kind of doing this recording right now, and coming off some posts I've seen over the weekend. Listen, confronting parents at games is one thing, and referees. It's fun to talk trash and yell at the ref, "That was a bad call," but keep your patience. Just please keep your patience. You're not gonna solve anything. You're not gonna change a referee's mind. You're certainly not gonna change another parent on another team's mind. Just relax, have a good time, and enjoy watching your kid play. That said, Angela, let's do a short recap of the last episode. What did we talk about last week?
Last week, we talked about summer and spring hockey training tournaments all the different opportunities that are now popping up into everyone's social media feeds, as well as their email boxes about what to sign up for next. As we are getting closer to the end of the regular season, lots of different organizations and camps and whatnot are sending out notifications. It's time to sign up for the spring and summer stuff.
Even in our region, I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the opportunities that are out there for our youngest child. Of course, our oldest he'll be going off to college, but there's so many opportunities here in Kentucky, Cincinnati area. I can't imagine up north. There's probably a lot more. All right, let's get on to our topic for today. Angela, what are we doing today?
Well, this is another thing you're probably seeing a lot in your email box and in your social media feeds. I know it's February, but tryout season is looming and the rumors are starting to swirl as to what's going to happen next season for all the different teams out there. We've seen some, notes going out from different parents and coaches. And I know this is something that happens across the country and people start getting nervous and those rumors just start swirling.
Like, you can't have tryouts without rumors and people chirping prior to those tryouts occurring, and it's conspiracies, some of it's true. People like to talk. Again, we've talked about this. People like to spread rumors, but anyway, let's get into it. What the puck am I doing? Let's talk about tryouts. So tryouts for the 2026-27 season are upon us. When do they generally start, Angela?
So historically, we've seen tryouts in our area usually in April May timeframe. I do know that U14 and up age groups must wait for tryouts for the next season until USA Nationals are over. I believe those are all scheduled for mid to late March this year. So I would be surprised if anybody has an actual tryout date or time before the very last weekend in March or early April. But that being said, those tryout dates and time frames are all over the place. We've seen some tryouts later in the summer. We've also seen the younger age groups, especially those 8U players, the mites, will wait even until the fall before they do their tryouts for the next season, which would be 2026 to 2027 season.
So is the reason why the 8U is in the fall, I like to think it's because they really don't know the kid's skill set yet, or they're really just kind of filling out the kids because you got kids coming out of IP, you have the younger kids coming up, and you probably generally have more kids involved in hockey at that age. I would think as they get older, kids drop out and go into other things. But the unknowing of between April and say September of which kids are actually going to participate, is that an accurate description for the late tryouts for the 8Us?
I would think so, and I've also seen the 8Us try out in April-May timeframe with everyone else, but early on, at least for our oldest, the tryouts for that younger age group were in the fall, and I think it really has to do with exactly what you said. You don't know who's gonna play, and honestly, if you're new to the sport, you don't realize that tryouts are not right before the season starts. You don't think that tryouts are months ahead of time.
I know when it hit us the first time, I was alarmed. Like, we were still in the middle of I don't wanna say middle of the season. We were kinda closing up the season and looking into tournaments, year-end tournaments, and we were already getting notified about the tryouts. I'm like, "How are we already talking about tryouts when the season truthfully isn't over?" After a while, I learned, the reasons why, but it was still just alarming that in April, we're already trying out for a team that's not gonna start playing until around August, September.
You talk about the reasons why that happens. I think one of the main reasons is they want to do tryouts while the kids are still kind of at the top of their game to know what their skill level is versus if they waited until August. Number one, there's going to be some kids that haven't been on the ice for a couple of months. They need to get their feet back under them, especially the younger ones. And number two is, in our area, we don't have the best ice conditions in August. When it's 90 plus degrees outside, the ice conditions are just not good, even in the indoor rinks. So I think that's
Point out that it's
probably
60 degrees right now, and there's a sign at our current rink right now that says, "Beware of puddles in the ice." So it's already
right.
go downhill, and it's February 16th.
Exactly, and this is, of course, after we just had a couple of weeks of heavy snow and below 0 temperatures, but all of that snow melt is now creating a lot of moisture in the air, so, yeah.
I'll say this, for everything that Angela and I talk about here today, this is our experience with it here in Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. Now, I'm sure other areas have different guidelines, different tryouts, but for the most part, we did some research, especially with the USA Nationals, so we We think you're accurate, but again, this is our experience as we talk about the tryouts. So let's continue on. We have the tryouts, and they aren't free, are they? They don't want
No, definitely not free. And those tryout fees are going to vary significantly depending on the organization.
So let's talk about that. You and I have dealt with this numerous times, and we've done the tryouts. We've gone into tryouts knowing our kid is not going to play on a team. I don't know what we were thinking, but we've gone to tryouts just to get the ice time, just to see how our kids stacked up, or maybe there was a remote possibility that they would join the team. What's your take on the reason why we did that? Did we just do it just to tease the other team, or is it because we were just trying to look out and maybe potentially move to a different team?
Well, I think there were a couple of times that we were looking for potentially moving to a different team, and I think some of that came from some of those rumors of who's going where and are we going to have enough players for a specific skill level team. All of those kinds of things I think have come into play. And then too, we were pretty naive. We didn't really know what we were doing. Coaches say, hey, why don't you try out for this team or that team or whatever. And just we use that more as a learning experience for us as a parent, but it also gave our kids some experience on the ice with different players, different coaches, and getting some feedback from a different perspective.
Our oldest child, when he came out of 8th grade, we had him on a team that was doing travel hockey. They were in Michigan, they were playing in Pittsburgh. He was in a double A organization, and we tried him out for the local high school varsity team. We just wanted to see how he that was Angela and I just saying, "Let's see how his skills match up against a high school team." And I remember being at that tryout the first time, and I'm standing on the glass, and the dad walks over to me, he goes, "Is that your son out there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's him out there." He goes, "He is not gonna make this team." And I go, "I don't care. We're just I just wanna see how he did up against these other varsity players, these kids that are driving themselves to the rink and shaving against my, now coming out of 8th grade." He made the team. We had to turn it down, but he made the team, surprisingly. The next year, we did the same thing. We tried him out with the varsity team again. We knew he was gonna stay with the double A organization, but we just wanted to see how he matched up skills-wise. Again, he makes a team. Now, 3 years in, we did it again. The other team dissolved, and at that point, we were told by not directly by the coach, but through someone else that he's tried out twice. If he tries out a 3rd time and turns his team down, that bridge is burned, and I gotta agree. I knew at that point that if we did not accept a spot on this team, and we were already gonna do that, that we were gonna just burn that bridge. So that's a note of caution. If you continue to try out for these teams and you ever have intention of playing for them, be careful not to burn bridges by just showing up to get the ice time and then 3 years later finally deciding you want to play because they're not gonna take you seriously.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk more about that in a little bit when we talk about different associations and how you kind of can feel some of that out. We'll definitely get into some more of that. But yeah, I think, trying out for a couple of different teams, there's not a harm in that. In fact, I think it can be a good thing and it can help you make those decisions further down the road. I do want to point out, we talked about the tryout fees can be expensive, but there's also commitment fees. So after tryouts, after you've paid whatever the fee is to try out, and they've offered you a spot on the team, they're going to want a commitment fee right away. And if you've tried out at another association and maybe you haven't heard back from that association yet, so you don't want to pay the commitment fee at one, but then get a call back for another. So that gets pretty hairy too when you're trying to balance trying out at multiple organizations.
So is the commitment fee, it's basically you signing the contract that says, "I am playing for you," and is it if you decide not to, are you gonna keep that money? Or you
Yeah.
okay, so you're gonna
Yeah, and so you pay the commitment fee and it goes towards your total season, at least in our experience.
deduct.
Right, it goes towards, whatever you're gonna pay for the whole season, but the idea is they want parents to go ahead and put some money down on the team to say, "Yes, my kid is gonna play for this team," because what you don't wanna happen is they haven't committed, and then all of a sudden you get to August, September, and, Johnny went this way and Bobby went that way and, all these kids go to different locations and then suddenly you don't have enough players for a team. So I understand the reason for the commitment fee, but you can also get yourself in a precarious situation where you've got one organization saying, if you want to play, you need to pay this by X date, while you're still maybe waiting to hear back from another organization.
That's the big part of parenting a hockey player is that big decision, especially if you're between organizations. And Angel and I have dealt with that numerous times. It's not fun juggling and trying to figure it out based on timelines of tryouts, commitment fees needed, and the actual paying just paying just to try out. The payout
Right.
the tryout payment, is that I mean, you're looking at $100 a pop, right? I mean, at least where we're at, this isn't like a $25 fee or a $50 fee. It's up there.
Yeah, it's I would say our tryout fees are somewhere in that $100 range, although we've seen up to like $500 for a tryout fee, which is to me is absolutely unless that $500 fee goes towards your league fees in some way, shape, or form, that's crazy.
You better get a
I
consolation
can't
jersey, bag, jumpsuit, limousine ride
right.
if you don't make the
That
team.
yeah, I that's just crazy to me, but every association, every rink has their own philosophy and their own reasons for doing that, but that would be a deterrent for me for sure.
Right. So what else do you got when we talk about tryouts? The varying dates of tryouts, the overlapping, because that happens too. So
Right,
team A
because,
is
I was gonna
tryouts are the same week as team B.
right, exactly, and that can be tough because if you wanna try out for 2 teams, but they have overly lapping days and times, that can be just as hard as this team's trying out this week and this other team's trying out next week, but you've got this commitment situation or deadline. It can all be crazy and difficult to navigate.
We also ran into the problem with ours overlapping spring break. Our kids' spring break
Yes.
late in the year, and luckily enough, like Sam, our oldest, was always and Henry, they both got themselves established on teams to where the coaches just kind of nudge, nudge, you good. We'll have you try out when you get back, or we'll try out before, but we know. Which brings me to my next point: returning kids. So if you're trying out for a team and you're returning kids, that's not a guaranteed spot. It may not be a guaranteed spot. You may have a kid coming in from 20 miles away or 30 miles away or another rink who takes your kid's spot. It seems dirty, but it's not. It's truthfully not. We've actually been that parent who's brought our kid to a rink and bumped another kid. What's your take on that? I mean, open season?
I mean, I think it's open season and I think it's a the coach and the which we're going to get into this in a little bit, but the coach and the association, however they set up the tryouts and however they're determining their team, I think a lot of it falls on them. But I think that's always a possibility, especially, you look at a team, whether it's a hockey team or a softball team or a football team, whatever team it is, you've got kind of players ranked based on their position, based on their skill level, based on their work ethic. And again, I want to talk about this in a little bit, but based on their parents' toxicity level. I think that's part of it. And that's something that I want to talk about. I was actually going to talk about in our next segment, but you got some toxic parents out there, which you alluded to a little bit earlier. There are probably coaches and associations out there that say, "Hey, this kid's fine, but their parents are just super toxic. We don't want them part of our organization." I think that's something that coaches consider in their decision on bringing kids onto their team.
There's nothing more disheartening than when you have a great kid on the team and their parents are complete toxic a-holes, and you feel for them, and they're jump or and you know they've jumped, and I know it's on your notes, and I don't know if we're jumping ahead. They're jumping teams. They run a team last year. They burned that bridge. Now they're on your team this year. They burned that bridge. Next year, they're on the other team. And it's just a kid, and the kid is genuine. The kids probably has some skill, and they're probably good, or they're probably getting burned out, but their parents are just toxic, and they're driving down the vibe of the team, and you don't want the parents there. You'd love to have the kid, just the kid, but it's a package deal, unfortunately, and you gotta deal with both of them.
Right. And yeah, absolutely. That's something I want to get into in this episode and talk more about. And I think that's something that we as parents need to be conscientious of because we've seen that. We've seen parents who have burned bridges. We've seen parents who have been, just incredibly toxic in their behavior toward the kid, toward refs, towards coaches, all kinds of different things. And it's like, yeah, we don't want that as part of our team and we don't want that as part of our organization.
Let's circle back to that, but this is a good point as we try to continue down our typed out agenda here. The closed tryout versus the open tryout. You wanna explain?
Yeah, and I think that actually a closed tryout versus an open tryout, the closed tryout is trying to keep the parent interaction out of the tryouts. So we have seen closed tryouts where parents are not allowed into the rink or to watch tryouts, that it is purely coaches, evaluators, people from the association, whether it's board members or whatever, are the ones doing the evaluation so that you don't have those toxic parents coming in and saying, hey, little Johnny played better than little Billy today, or those kinds of things. because that happens. And the coaches and the associations want to try to keep as much of that out as possible.
We experienced this firsthand, and then I put it out on our social media to see what everybody's experiences were with tryouts. And I actually noted our experience of we showed up to a tryout once, and they were taping the glass. They were taping up the old what do you call it again? The boy.
The viewing area, like the glass that looks into the
Yeah,
rink, not the actual hockey glass.
basically, the parents weren't allowed in the rink, and the glass that you could view into the rink, the boy aquarium glass that we talked about last
No,
week.
no, no, the observation area, not the boy aquarium glass is the
Oh,
actual,
the actual
glass.
the observation glass, they had it taped off and parents couldn't see it, and even I think Live Barn may have been shut down as well, and apparently that is a common thread. We've not seen it much around here, but it's very common in organizations where parents are not allowed, which is, to me, tremendous. That's awesome. I think it's the way it should be because to your point, you have grimacing, smug dad standing on the glass, growling at the coach, not paying attention to his kid or something like that.
Or the other parents that try to coach their kids through the glass.
The
Those
ones that
kinds of things are happening too.
look like they're either stroking out or gesturing wildly,
Yes, exactly.
like the kid can understand hand signals.
Right, right. But it's just another one of those things to try to keep the tryouts on a more even playing field, a more level.
And then as far as your kids go, especially at a younger age, don't overthink it. Just let them get out there and play hockey. Now, I know we've had our son, was it Sam, completely botched the tryout, didn't he?
Both of our kids have botched
Both of our kids botched
tryouts.
tryouts. Sam botched his early on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, his was like, I think first year squirt or something
First year
along those
squirt, and he was
lines.
pulling, like, the lower tier squirt, and he progresses through the season, he's dropping, like, dimes, scoring goals, and people are like, "Why is he on this team? Why did he not make the other team?" We're like, "Well, he botched the tryout. What are we gonna do?" And then our other son, who's now a 12U, he it was a summer program, and
It was a summer team, yeah.
the coach knew him, and he tried out, and it was awful. It was like the worst thing we've ever seen him play hockey. It's like the worst he's ever done in hockey, to the point the coach comes off the ice, he's like, "What happened to Henry?" And we're like, "We don't know." And we're like, "If you want him, you can have him. If you don't need him, we don't it's up to you, man. We know he botched it." And he ended up getting used for that tournament, but the coach was, like, questioning we were lucky the coach actually knew who he was.
Right, and it was definitely a learning I think both of those experiences were learning experiences for our kids as a, "Hey, I can't go out there and loaf around because somebody's gonna notice, and I'm gonna have to play my best all the time." I think it really helped both of them recognize that just your prior year status or your prior year abilities are not going to always carry you, and I think that was a great thing for them to learn, and they both learned it pretty early on.
And on the same hand, I would recommend against wasting your time. We kinda touched on this about getting the ice time. If your kid's just coming out to learn to skate, maybe don't put them in a AAA tryout. You're wasting time at that point, and we've seen that before where these elite AAA or AA kids are out there drilling to do everything else, and there's a kid out there who's doing pizza and french fry on his skates and can't skate backwards, and it's kind of on his parents that put him out there, whether they wanted ice time or they think some remote possibility that he can actually make that team. Just kinda know your kid's skill level.
It happens the other way around too. You've got a kid who's really talented going out for a team, going out on a tryout for a team that's not really talented, and that kid's skating circles around the other kids. That's not fair either.
We've done that too, where we've, as parents, have scouted teams for our kids to say, "Is this team up to par to where we want our kid to play?" And we've not gone to tryouts on teams because we knew the team wasn't a fit for us. We just flat out didn't do it.
Right. But I think at the same time, and this is something else I want to talk about, is don't just try out for the team based on the anticipated ranking, whether it's a double A team or a triple A team or a house team or whatever. Think, teams work better. And I was talking about this with the US women's team earlier, how they're all similarly skilled. They all are contributing. That's what you really want out of a team. You don't want kids on a team who have significant differences in their talents and their abilities. So you don't want a kid on the team who is just learning to skate with a kid who's been skating since he was 2 and doing circles around them. That's not great. And And it's also not great to go, "Oh, I only want my kid playing if he's playing AAA." That's insane to me. The point of youth sports, the point of youth hockey is development, having fun, it's competition, it's learning all of these other skill sets, and don't weigh everything on that anticipated team ranking or whatever the team's ranking was last year in my hockey stats or whatever. That's not the point. The
Yeah,
point is not the ranking.
yeah, be like me, where my kid made the team, 12U, maybe even before that, and he was a perfect fit as far as I was concerned, and then after the fact, I'm like, "Oh, I'll be damned, they're a double A team." Didn't know that coming in. That's how clueless I was, that's how much I don't wanna say I didn't care, but I more cared about him being on a team that he fit in, and his skill level was comparable with everybody else. The letters came after it, and I was pleased with it. If they said it was
Right.
play, I'd have been fine with that as well too.
And that's what we've talked about this in the past and personally, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast too, is that desire to play for that top level team where it becomes a pay to play kind of thing, or what I like to call the pay for your extra A situation where, you're trying out for a team. Yeah, your kid made it. Maybe the team's not quite up to the level of, a true AAA team, and you're paying a whole lot of extra money for that, status, and you're going out and just getting your butt kicked by every team you play against. That's not fun either. That's not fun for anybody. It's not fun for the parents. It's not fun for the kids. It's not fun for the coaches. It's not fun for the kids who are playing against your team. So just really try to keep that in mind. You want a competitive team. You don't want a situation where just the talent of the team is either considerably over what you're shooting for or under what you're shooting for.
Yeah, it's wild. We've experienced that this season where our double A kids, smoked a triple A team. We're like, "Really? That team was triple A? We just smoked them. We destroyed them." And it was because they paid for that extra A, I would assume.
Right.
This is gonna be touchy. Aren't we there yet? And this is where we get into the rumors and the political side of youth hockey, and my god, I don't think we have much time. I have 30 hours per recording, and we could probably go in for 100 on this. Where do you wanna start with the rumors and political side of youth hockey?
I think you're right. We could do real deep dives into this, and this is the part that I hate the most about youth sports. I think there are a lot of people out there that would probably agree with me on this political side of stuff. It's just too much. These are kids. Let them play, let them have fun, let them do their thing. But I think let's start with the association. I think there's a lot of associations out there that have either really great dynamics or really bad dynamics, and their reputation precedes them. So I think that's something that, you need to be aware of. Take a look at, who's calling the shots. Is it just, one director that's calling the shots, or is there a board of parents with kids either on teams or maybe previously on teams? Is there somebody with all of the influence on what's going on in that association? I think those are valid things that you need to dive into before you get into a situation that you're not happy with.
So your board and the director of hockey is separate from your coaches and your team manager who are kind of report up to them. So how much are they micromanaging and how much are they involved? And is it a good relationship? We've seen organizations where it's worked out. We've seen organizations where it does not work out and it can get pretty bad.
Yeah, it can get real dicey, especially if you've got somebody in a position that wants to wield all the power, or on the other end of the spectrum, isn't doing what they need to do to uphold, their end of the bargain on getting ice time or, managing the program as a whole. There's a lot going on there. Hats off to all of the people who volunteer for these positions. I know at least most of the organizations around here, those positions are generally volunteer. So hats off to the people who are doing it, but it's also a tricky place to be. And something you should know as a parent going in that could be something you want to take a look at.
Take a look at volunteering to help out. Is that what you're saying?
Volunteering to either help out or just know what you're getting yourself into. Is there already a history of some politics at play there that you don't want to get yourself involved in? Or is it a situation where you do want to get involved and you want to be on that board and you want to help out in whatever capacity?
You may see leagues ran or teams ran by parents of players, and that parent of that player may be only focusing on that player's team. doesn't care about the other teams or lower tier teams, kind of half-assing it for you. It's there's so much we could talk about on this, and there's so many bridges we could probably burn when we talk about this. But for the most part, our experience has been both. We've had negative and we've had positive. Probably more swinging towards negative, I would think. It's unfortunate because volunteers are needed and encouraged, but it's also unfortunate because some of these volunteers, parents, aside from their kids' hockey, that's all they've got. So they like to wield the power. They like to me, me, me. I'm taking everything over, and it's their way or the highway. And it's unfortunate. And it is one of, I would say, one of the key drivers that would push a kid out of a sport aside from like the coaching or the difficulty of the hockey itself is these organizations that are poorly ran. Hopefully it gets better and hopefully it maybe it will. I don't know. It seems like some of these organizations are being taken over by large multi conglomerate organizations that are wielding their power and putting their people in charge, some for the better, some for the worse. So it's something you want to research if you're thinking about joining an organization. How's that organization ran from the top all the way down to whoever is coaching and general managing your team?
And I think from my perspective, it's if the focus is on the kids, on the development, those kinds of things, not the, hey, we're going to go out and win every tournament and we're going to push out the kids who are not as skilled and aren't winning every tournament. Those are things that I think that's probably from a very basic level what you can look at from an association standpoint. But I think we could do hours and hours and hours on that and the toxicity of youth sports, but that's not what I wanna focus on. I wanna kind of move on. Let's talk a little bit about coaches' influence, and, the fact that we've talked about this before, most coaches in youth hockey are typically parents or other volunteers that, their kids played in the past, they wanna keep coaching, so they're still out there coaching. So I think that's another place where you need to kind of take a look. And we talked about this before in our getting to know your team episode. Get to know your coaches too, because those coaches do have a lot of influence on the kids and they have a lot of influence on who's picked on the team and how that team does for the year.
I would think that a coach would also give you insight on if your kid, especially during tryouts, belongs on the team. I mean, don't flat out don't you directly ask them, but what could Henry do to make this team, or what could Sam do to do better to make the team next year? I think it's worth getting feedback from them, even if, especially if you don't make the team, to see where you're lacking or where your kid's lacking in skills. Maybe it's not the kid, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the overbearing parent who's up this coach's ass all the time, talking about your kids' minutes on the ice as opposed to someone else's kids' minutes on the ice.
Right, and that leads me to something else that I wanna chat about. There are the parents that will campaign or lobby coaches on behalf of their kid. We've seen that happen before, which is always interesting.
Oh, man, it's like the Mean Girls. You see a gaggle of parents around the circle, and you're like, "Ah, coach must be in the middle of that." And sure enough, it's just parents chewing this coach's ear off. And that's where Angel and I go back to. I don't know if you remember. Man, this is not an '80s reference. This is a '70s reference. Remember when they were interviewing Rocky and Apollo, and Paulie said, "I don't sweat you. I'm that way with coaches. I don't sweat you. I appreciate what you do, but I'm not kissing your ass to get my kid on the team. I'm gonna let my kids' skills speak for themselves. But parents will lobby the bejesus out of a coach to get them on a team.
I think that's always an interesting situation, and yeah, we've definitely seen that before,
It's working,
many times.
and it's worked. It has absolutely worked. We've seen people who we know teams or teams our kids have played on, and there's kids on the team that had no business being on that team, 0. But they're on the team, and we knew the secret why, wink, wink, because of lobbying. I guess lobbying works into hockey just like it does in political atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I want to say about coaches and their influence, and I think we talked about this in the prior episode as well. What's the coaching philosophy of, what is that coach? That's what I want to hear from a coach. I don't want to go, lobby for my kid, but I want to know what's the coach's goals. Is the coach's goal to have, a team of similarly skilled players who are going out and playing somewhere in that, 500 season. Yeah, they're getting they're winning some games, but they're also playing really close games because that's what I want to see. I don't want to see a team. I don't want the coach's philosophy to be we win every game. So we put ourselves in a position to win every game because that's not helpful for anybody.
And we also experienced at an early age, we had a coach that would scream at the kids, "What are you doing?" Like bloody murder, "What are you doing?" Without a follow-up, "Here's what you need to do." And it was an awful coaching experience, and we knew it was because we had had a little bit of experience with our oldest child, and we knew that the program wasn't for us after that because of the coach's philosophy didn't match what we believed it should have been. And that should have been was teaching the kids as opposed to just flat out punishing the kids. So, yeah, it is. It's the Gordon Bombay from Mighty Ducks versus, like, a Bud Kilmer from Varsity Blues. Rest in peace, James Vanderbeek passed away last week. But it's that psychopath coach mentality that you see on the on the in movies versus the almost like a uncle or parent type figure or aunt type figure who helps build these kids into adults. And we've been lucky enough, especially recently, to have that in all of our kids' coaches.
And not to say that coaches need to be soft in any way, shape, or form,
Oh,
but
God, no.
they're kids and they need to be learning, and there are certain styles, and I think if you have an idea of what you want out of the hockey program for your child or your child playing, then you need to make sure that your child's coach is kind of on that same playing field.
So let's talk about rumors as we get into tryouts. Rumors start flying. And rumors, it's February. Rumors already flying about tryouts for next year for in our leagues. What do you
Oh,
think?
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's everything from who's trying out where to who's coaching where, who's looking for a new team, who wants to stay put.
There's always the
Um,
mythical kid from 4 towns over that's like phenomenal, being recruited by the NHL, and he's going to play for our team. That's you always get that the phenom kid from 6 towns away that's coming down to try out with us, and the kid shows up, and you're like, this kid isn't that he's not that good. This is the kid that's
yeah.
it's always like this mythical buildup, but a disappointing drop.
Right, and it's the, "Oh, so and so coach is gonna, do this and build this team," or there's just so many different things going on with that, and, when you've got more than a handful of kids who wanna stay together on a team, I think that's where we have been really lucky that we've had that situation and we've been able to keep a group of kids together, but then you have, "Well, but so and so is gonna try out this year." And is my kid on the chopping block if so and so, the kid from 6 towns over tries out? There's all of that stuff going on, and who's going to make what team, and what's the anticipated level this team's going to play at next year? Are we going to play single A? Are we going to play double A? All of that stuff just starts swirling
Oh God,
round and round.
none of this. I don't want to hear any of it. I just want my kid to play hockey and have fun. Just keep your rumors to yourselves. And let's just see what happens.
Yeah, but you kinda also gotta know what's going on so you can make some decisions, but you also need to be able to filter out the rumors too. You need to be able to filter out the total BS versus, what's actually happening in the background, and I think that's where, I've taken on some of that, where I've gone directly to coaches and said, "Hey, what's the situation? What are we doing?" Again, that's that whole introvert extrovert thing where we switch roles for hockey. I think that's often a good way to go about it. Just ask directly, "Hey, what's going on?" The rumors and the rumor mill stuff, it's just going to get people worked up, and it's not fun to live through, and it can be stressful. And look, I don't need any more stress in my life.
So let's talk about the ever famous, and I'm sure everybody that's listening has seen this, the organization hoppers. So they've been there, done that. If they had a 10 punch card that how many rinks they've been at, they could punch every one of them. And what we mean by this is this year they're a Norse, next year they're a sword, the next year they're a Dayton stealth. They just keep jumping organizations for what reason? Multiple reasons, I would think.
I think that's the case, and it probably happens more than just in our areas. Players are always looking for greener grass, or maybe it's the parents who are looking for greener grass. Maybe the parent is trying to find something specific for their kid. Is this skill level the right skill level for my kid? Is this coach the right one for my kid? I'm following a coach. I'm following another player. I'm sure there's a million reasons for it, but it goes back to that burning bridges thing that we talked about earlier. If you keep bouncing around to these different organizations, you're probably burning bridges with the organizations and with the coaches, and your kid's not building those relationships that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with their team because they're with a different group every year. And that's part of the fun of playing on a team is you get to build those relationships and those friends, and you're not gonna do that when you're bouncing around from one place to the next every year.
We've seen it. It's happened where we've seen parents blackballed out of organizations because 'cause they've jumped back and forth, and we've also seen the fear when people try out. Like, you go to tryouts and there's, like, 10 defensemen there, and your kid's a defenseman too, and you start to panic. "Well, I need to move to Indianapolis." I don't get it. Like, some of these parents that drive, 150 miles, if that's what you do, more power to you. I love hockey too, but not to that extent. I guess if the competitive level wasn't in the area, maybe I'd consider it, but this organization hopping year after year, it's gotta take it on the kid, to your point. It's gotta be especially as they advance age because these kids stick on these teams, even 1 or 2 players move on or off the team, but they become a cohesive unit. And for a brand new kid to come in 1 season and then leave the next season, he's not gonna be welcome back the next season after that.
Well, not only not welcome back, but he's just not gonna build that, camaraderie with the team, and you have that chemistry that builds. We've got some kids that have played together for several years, they've been on the same line. You take them off of their line, and all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to play hockey anymore," because they're so used to the other kids. While that's a good thing, but at the same time, you don't wanna have to plug in your child into a new situation every year.
I guess
That's just a lot.
you have a sweet collection of jerseys.
And that gets expensive too. I don't wanna buy a new jersey every year. It's bad enough they're growing and I gotta buy new jerseys, and I try to buy a jersey so that we can wear it at least 2 years. It's a little big the first year, a little snug the next year, but at least we get 2 years out of it.
Oh, and what happens when you ultimately join a new organization? It's like, "Oh, it's not just jerseys, we also have shells for the pants, we also have everybody's gotta have matching gloves." Uh,
And socks and bags and all the things.
Group
Like, I don't wanna
jumpsuit.
buy all that stuff new every year. That's crazy.
Are there sports like that where you gotta have all these accessories that all match, or is it just like, "Here's your basketball uniform, throw it in a duffel bag?"
No, I think the all the travel sports are like that. I mean, you see that with the basketball players and the volleyball players going into, one of our rinks has a connected sports court facility for basketball, volleyball, and whatnot. And you see them all going in with their matching backpacks and shoes and all of that kind of stuff. So no, it's not just hockey.
Sport
Although I think the hockey equipment's probably more expensive.
If I could go back in time and make a decision about my career, it would be to get in the business of this youth sports that has exploded over the course of our adulthood to where it went from community-based organizations playing in a nearby community to these privately owned sports conglomerates selling specialized equipment that must be worn by your team, and I'd be a millionaire right now, and I'd
I
be
wanna be the tournament person, the person who created the tournament company.
oh, yeah, the one that collects
In
all
the
the
state of play so I can
that
have
I'm
a
not getting all the hills points.
bajillion hotel points?
Somewhere there's the director of that organization that owns it is, at a Hilton at a private beach because they
They just live at, like, some
from us.
Hilton in Mexico now? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally, yeah. Alright, let's get moving. Life moves pretty fast. What's your reflections?
I struggled with the reflections this week, but I
No,
think
it's
we
blank.
we touched on that. I'm sorry, what was that?
It's blank. The life moves pretty fast reflections on your notes, it's blank.
Right, because I was struggling with that and I hadn't come up with anything when I was typing this up, but I think we touched on it a little earlier with the both of our kids went through a tryout where they just didn't play well and they got knocked down a level based on that poor tryout. And I think the reflection, at least for me in this, is that that was probably a good thing for both of our kids.
Agree.
Knock that ego down a little bit, and it gave them both the opportunity to step back and realize that, yes, I have to hustle. Yes, I have to play hard. But it also gave them, especially our oldest, when he played on that team that was kind of down a level, it gave him the ability to go in and gain that confidence and become a leader on the team. I think that's where he really took off as a leader because he ended up being one of the better players on that team and it gave him more of an opportunity than I think he would have had he played up.
They were both very young when they did this, when they, shit the bed, so to speak, on the, tryouts, and we did ask them. We didn't yell at them. We didn't go sports parent on them. We were just like, "Yeah, you didn't do well," and they acknowledged it. It was very humbling, but it also gave them motivation to get better, to make that team.
And it wasn't just a you didn't do well. It was you didn't try hard. I think that was the biggest piece of it for me. It was not, hey, your skill level's not there. It was, hey, you didn't try hard. You didn't play your best. And because you didn't play your best, this is the natural consequence of not playing your best.
But
And so
it made them stronger in the end.
right. That made for the life lesson there, and I think that was really important for both of them to learn, and we didn't shelter them from that, and I think in the long run, that's a good thing.
We didn't go to the coaches and say, "Our kid tank the tryout. He deserves to be on this team." We didn't do that. Now, Coach Wilson
Right.
said, "What the hell happened?" And we were like, "Yeah, we just tanked the tryout." But it was not us approaching him, it was him approaching us. My point is, we didn't gripe about it as parents. We accepted what they did, and we moved on, and we learned from it. And we all learned from it, from us parents to both of our boys, and it worked out. Angela, I think that's a lead into the tip of the week, tryouts.
Yeah, trials can be stressful for everybody. It can be stressful for us as a parent, and guess what? It's stressful for the kids too. I'm not going to try to talk to you about how to manage the stress of your kid, but I think what we just said: go out there, try your best. Don't loaf around and expect to make a team. You got to go out and do what you got to do as a player. But for us as parents, I think the takeaway is keep an open mind and look at the bigger picture. Is this the environment that your player is going to thrive in? Is it going to be a positive environment for them? Is it going to be an environment where you're comfortable? Are you okay with, the coach, the team, the organization, the cost, the distance, how far you're going to have to drive to practice, games, all of those kinds of things are things that you're going to have to keep in mind as you're making decisions on where to try out and am I going to pay that commitment fee? Am I going to commit to this team? Those are all things you need to look at, not just, hey, what's the team name on the front of the jersey and how many A's are after that team name.
Yeah, will your kid be happy, and will you be happy with that team? And I would also counter with trouts can probably also be stressful for the coaches. I can't imagine being a coach and having to turn down kid that's been on your team for 3 years or a parent who has been with the organization for X amount of years, but you're doing what's best for the overall team. Now, I know there's probably some politics or underlying stuff that we talked about, maybe, but you're not going to change their mind by calling and ranting and raving. Let the chips lie as they may and just look out for your own child. If they make it to a lower tier team, take that as a challenge for next season. And if your kid's happy playing on that lower tier team, great for them. Let them have a good time.
And I'll say if the politics are an issue, it's probably not a situation you're going to want to get into anyways. You're going to want to get out of that if you think the politics are the issue of why your kid didn't make a team.
And then beware rumors.
Yes.
Beware the rumor.
Don't believe the rumors. You got to dive in and find out if those rumors are true or not.
Anything else, Angela, as we get to the outro? Our best wishes, and this will probably hit the news. Our best wishes to the families in Rhode Island. It's going to probably hit the news later. There was a shooting at a rink, a youth hockey rink. So I don't know any details about it, but on behalf of Pucked Up parents, Angela, and myself, again, there's no place for violence in sports, and this is just a sad, sad situation. There's too much of it. Just take a deep breath if somebody upsets you. Take a walk around the rink or just ignore them. Put in some earbuds. We don't need this in this sports. Gives a black eye to all sports out there for youth, and it's a sad situation. With
Yeah,
that,
sorry to bring us down on that note, but yeah, again, another reason we wanna start this podcast and we wanna talk about this stuff. It's not necessary to have all of this toxicity, and as a parent coming into a sport that's known for some toxicity, you need to be aware of what to look out for and know that there are some great organizations out there, there's some great coaches out there, and there's some other fantastic parents out there. You might just have to seek them out. But yeah, let's stay away from all of that
at
craziness.
at the end of the day, it's about that child on the ice having fun. That's it. Period. That's it. Win, lose, make a team, don't make a team. It's about your child having a smile on their face at the end of the day. So, Angela, let's get to the outro here. What do you want to say?
Yeah, appreciate everyone listening. Please follow us on social media. We have active pages on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Share and please give us a rating. That helps us get out there and get known. We're having a lot of fun with this. Hope everybody is having fun listening.
I agree, and we have a merchandise. It's tagged to the top of our Facebook page. Purchase a T-shirt. I'm actually wearing one now as we record this. I've had it on for 2 days, so it probably needs to be washed. It stinks.
The,
Anyway,
the link is also on our Instagram page. You
oh, the
always
link
fail to mention that.
it's on the yeah, sorry, it's on the Instagram page too. So like, listen, follow, and share. And like we say every week, keep your stick on the ice. We're all in this together. Goodbye.
Out before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend and some